Welcome again to the New York podcast. A back-to-back derby for Arsenal. But we saw what they did against Spurs in that London derby. I think it was an annihilation. But this time, they will welcome another team from the west part of London to the Emirates, and it is Chelsea. It is now 2 points. They are only leading Manchester City by 2 points, which means the pressure is back on Arsenal. The question is, can they win once again? Now, they'll have to answer that tomorrow, and we will find out. But having said that, I think for Arsenal, their only approach to this game is to win and nothing else to win. To extend that lead back to 5, where you're feeling a lot more comfortable and less pressure. For Chelsea, obviously, top for ambition, I think still remains the same and nothing more. And I don't even think they're going to get a draw tomorrow because they're missing a lot of players through suspension and injuries. But before we get to that, let us try to look at the predicted 11 for both teams really quick. For Arsenal, I don't expect much to change. If Bukayo Saka is fit, then I think he's going to start. So which means we might see just the team that played against Spurs, or we might see Martin Odegaard back in the lineup. Perhaps Gabriel Martinelli will have to also come in the lineup to replace Bukayo Saka. Maybe Eberechi Eze goes back to the bench. I don't know. So apart from that, I expect David Raya in goal at right back, Timber at left back, and KPA and the usual centre back pair of Gabriel and Saliba. Double pivot of Martin Zubimendi and Declan Rice, obviously, again, like I said, either the same thing, Saka, Eberechi Eze, Leandro Trossard behind Victor Gyökeres, or Martinelli comes back into the lineup to replace Saka if he is not fit enough to start, and then Martin Odegaard comes back into the lineup to replace Eberechi Eze. That is the only change I'm looking at. For Chelsea, due to the number of suspensions and injury, I think they don't have much, but Sanchez will be in goal at right back. Rhys James is coming back to the starting 11. That is good for Chelsea. Malo Gusto at left back, and the centre back pair, they have a couple of options, right? Because Colwill is out, Fofana is suspended, I think. So, which means they have Badiashile, they have Chalobah, and Tosin. Now, whatever the pair is, it's going to be a problem because Victor Gyökeres has been scoring goal. And aside from scoring goal, he is a big physical presence to deal with, and those players have not been playing consistently. So, it's going to be a problem. But let us continue. I expect a double pivot of Caicedo and Andre Santos, and Pedro Neto, Enzo Fernandez, and Cole Palmer behind Joao Pedro. That is what I'm expecting for Chelsea. So now, let us, before we go to the tactical approach, right, let me just see, the guys that are injured really on this list real quick. Mudryk is suspended. Isugu is doubtful. Jorgensen is doubtful. Cooker is out. Colwill is out. Jimmy Gittins is out. Fofana is suspended, like I said. Estevao is out. For Arsenal, Kai Havertz is doubtful. Mikel Merino is out. Ben White is doubtful. So, again, you can see how Chelsea really, really don't have a lot of players. And on top of that, they have not been really consistent. So, I don't think, having said that, I don't think the approach is, well, Chelsea will just go to Arsenal and just open the play and try to match Arsenal pound for pound. I think it's going to be a problem, right? You don't want to go toe-to-toe with Arsenal if you're Chelsea. What you want to do is take your time, relax a little bit, perhaps in the mid-block, try to see what Arsenal is going to do. Because I do believe with the 2 points again, like I said, Arsenal should be feeling much more desperate. Okay, they should be feeling the pressure to go all out and get a win because in their minds, right, they have had 2 wins recently against Chelsea in the EFL Cup, so they must be feeling confident. Again, they're home. It is the Emirates, and then it is only 2 points. That goal is still kind of extend the lead back to 5. So Arsenal will go out and play. And for Arsenal, I think that should be the plan, right? Go out aggressively right from the get-go. So if you're Chelsea, you don't want to match that aggression from Arsenal. Otherwise, it can get bad really fast. Okay, you want to sit, in that mid-block, try to frustrate Arsenal a little bit, let them play in a hurry, put more pressure on them, let them commit mistakes, and then you can see whether you can punish them based off of those mistakes. So which means you're looking at quick transitions, all right, when you have the chance, because you do have pacey wingers, you do have players that have the ability to take on, defenders 1v1. So your strength with Pedro Neto and Cole Palmer, right, where Enzo Fernandez should be expecting to drop into the midfield, perhaps form a midfield trio of Santos and Caicedo, rather than just kind of joining the attack and try to support Joao Pedro in most cases. So having said that, I think we all know how Arsenal used to play. All right, they would naturally have their fullbacks inverted into the midfield, which means either Rice or Zubimendi is going to drop, forming a three center back. Most times it is Martin Zubimendi. Why that is? So they can release either Eberiche Eze or Martin Odegaard, whoever starts, to kind of provide a 2v1 situations against the Chelsea's fullback, because you also want to keep Reece James as far back as possible. So if you're able to create those situations more often, if you're Arsenal, right, where you have either Odegaard or Eze doubling down with Saka or Leandro Trossard, or if Martinelli starts in this case, then I think that is where you're going to get your advantage. Because now, if you succeed to beat the fullbacks of Chelsea, either Malo Gusto or Reece James, then one of the center back will have to come forward. Again, I'm not sure which two, but I will go maybe Chaluba and Badiashile instead of Tosin. So one of them will have to leave the center back area to cover up for the fullbacks. And now, when you leave a guy like Victor Gyökeres all alone by himself, and then the cross is coming in, I think that is an easy topic. So that is the approach I'm expecting for Arsenal, and I'm expecting pressing. All right, like press really high. The press has to be sharp whenever Chelsea has the ball, because I'm going to tell you what, those center back pair of Chelsea are going to be a little bit timid. That is my expectation. So if you're Arsenal, you don't want them to get really comfortable, right? Build up plays, be able to get on the ball more and just get more confidence, all right, into the game. Now, if Chelsea is allowed to go that level of confidence, then it might be difficult for Arsenal. So you want to shut down that really fast. Press high, make it sharp, control possession. You dictate the tempo of the game, all right, and just keep putting the pressure on Chelsea if you want to get off the points and extend that lead back to 5 points ahead of Manchester City. It's not going to be easy. This is a derby. Normally in derbies, it's not about form, it's not about your position on the table, but it is a derby. But having said that, regardless, Chelsea are just missing way too much for Arsenal to go into this tie and act like, Chelsea is really that team. I think if they get a draw, they will be very, very disappointed. But we will see what happens. This is football, always full of surprises. So we'll find out tomorrow, and we'll come back and give a reaction and an analysis to the post-match. But until then, y'all stay blessed and peace out. Catch you later.